Welcome, everybody, to our podcast. I am Dean Nixon with the lovely Kate Simmons.
Hello, everybody.
So excited to join with you once again and excited to be podcasting. Thank you, everybody.
Yes, it's been so fun to start this new venture and to get everybody's feedback. And as we still strive to name whatever we're going to land on, keep it coming. We're loving all of the insight. It's so fun to interact with you.
We will have a name. And we are so excited. This is a new platform for us. One of the main reasons that we've chose this platform to participate in is because of how many people have been encouraging us to do. But also to be able to give us a platform because we have more time. And that's really one of the things we've always wanted. On the other platform, it's not quite as lengthy. So in this platform, you get to hear a little bit more of who we really are and how we really believe. And that one of the things we really want to touch on is it's okay if there are things that we share that you may not agree with. We don't want you to feel like you have to agree with us or believe everything. We want you to be researching and digging into these things on your own, getting your own ideas and your own opinions, and that's really important to us.
Yeah, that's a huge key component to why it is that we're showing up here today. So thank you for listening, and let's jump into our topic, Dean.
I'm so excited for our topic.
Okay, me too.
So today our topic is simplicity. And one of the things that we really struggle with as human beings is making things more difficult than they have to be. And I remember, I think we were talking We were talking a little bit about how I think it was on our last podcast, how we get this extra time in our lives and we tend to fill it full of all these other things. Like last podcast we were talking about, the suffering and creating peace in our life. And so really it's about creating simplicity and simplifying.
Right, and that is completely the opposite of what I naturally do, which is to complicate things. Incessantly, right? Like, I have 24 hours in my day and I need to sleep for around 7. So what 1 million things can I shove into my day to give me value? I mean, let's really be honest here. So that was the first question we had, you guys, was why do we make life complicated as humans? Why do we do that?
Why do we do that? And we work so hard to feel on purpose and on task. And as human beings, we've really equated being a doer, showing up, etc., by how much we do or how much we participate in. And we create in our minds a value around that. And even if we don't, like if you lay in bed all day, you still are measuring or still putting yourself up against what you didn't do that you should have done. So Absolutely. Even if you're like, I'm just going to simplify my day and stay in bed, are you really simplifying it in your head, or are you running with that in your head?
Absolutely. Or even like, I'm not feeling very well today. I really should be staying in bed, but look at all of the things that I really should, you can't see me, hands in quotations marks, should be doing, right? Like, to keep up with the pace of life.
Yeah. And a lot of this, I get my value from being a human doing, and this is one of the cliches that have been around our industry for years, is being a human doing rather than a human being. And the idea of not being a human being is really strange for people, because we really need to understand that the natural state of a human is to just be. And when we are in that natural state, we determine our value based upon how industrious we are, what we've been able to create. We're getting a lot of our value by the types of things that we have, the types of things we don't have. What kind of car am I driving? What kind of house do I live in? What kind of clothes am I wearing? What is my career? What's my career path? What is my job? Does it contribute? Does it not contribute? And we get caught up in this idea of this. And I remember watching a show about Ireland, and it was intriguing to me because there were two parts of Ireland, and there was a northern part and a southern part. And the southern part was really very much industrious. It was driven by being a doing. It was driven by those things. And when they would go to the northern parts of this land, they would come across these people that were a little bit more nomadic, They kind of flowed with the rhythms of the earth more. They were more in tune with the earth, and in some ways, they were looking at them being very pagan and what's the other word I'm trying to think of?
Just very like naturalistic.
Yes, but heretic.
Oh, okay.
A heretic. Thank you. You helped me with that apparently. but being a heretic or being a savage. But they were very in tune with the earth. They very much moved with the earth, and it also reminded me of the time, when America was being populated from Europe, and we were coming into the Americas, and we were starting to kind of conquer it. And the Native Americans, and I had the privilege of living on the Native American reservations, in my early 20s, and working with that client or with that group of individuals, and seeing how in tune they had been with life. If it was cold and snowy, they would go down south. During the winters, during the summers, they would come up to the greener, etc. And this idea of simpleness was so built into those cultures, because that truly was the natural state of man at the time. But we have gotten into this whole other concept. Does this make sense where I'm going?
100%. And I love that you're bringing this up, because this is a huge piece of what we want to be able to have conversations with you guys about is how we have been sold something different about what it is to be a human being today, right? And I'm just going to go on a little bit of a rant right here, Dean, but
Go.
I feel like throughout history, there's been purpose for every particular era, right? Like the Industrial Revolution, or like all these different types of lifestyle that you're talking about. But here we are in 2020, and what it looks like to be human looks a little different. It's not the same, and we're kind of rewriting that. And so I love that we're taking a look at this idea of simplicity, not to negate hard work and not to negate industry, but to really find that balance in your life, because we've been sold this idea that really you haven't really amounted to much as a human if you aren't productive, right? If you can't just go and do all day, then then what are you, right? Like, oh, you're sick, I'm sorry. Suck it up, buttercup, and get to work, right?
I love that you bring that up, because and I remember Brene Brown was talking about in The Power of Vulnerability, this idea of if sickness is a weakness.
Right.
And there's value attached to, are you productive? Are you a good person? Are you a doing person?
So even to add like that good to productive and do, right?
Right.
Like you are good, or you're bad.
Or you're bad.
You're wrong if you're not.
And that's so intriguing to me. So kind of going back to this idea. So those of you that, if you looked at the date stamp on this podcast, we're right in the middle of the coronavirus issue. We're really in a lot of this quarantining, a lot of people staying at home. And what's intriguing to me is the amount of people that are going nuts being at home. And I love watching like the simple little memes that are going around and the little videos that are going around. It's really quite entertaining and quite humorous. But there's a reality of, we have become such a feed me ovary sensory overload society that we can't even sit quietly with ourselves. We can't just sit and meditate. We can't just sit and be. We have to be plugged in. We have to be doing. We have to be going. And if you're not, then who are you? And I think that's also where I see another piece of this that's showing up is why we do it, is because we are defining our roles as human beings by this.
Right.
And so we see men, for example, when men lose their jobs, they don't know who they are anymore. And they struggle with that. They don't know what to do. They feel that they've been disenfranchised and they've lost their essence of who they are. Women that can't bear children.
Right.
For one reason or another, they feel the same way. It's like, well, now who am I? What is this role? And I think a lot of this comes from these societal roles that have really been ingrained in us ever since we were children, and children of children of children of children of children, and so there's this inability almost to create simplicity in our lives. And so here we are, quarantined in our homes, and it's like, no, I've got to do. Well, I can't do, so let me watch.
Right. Or let me come up with 1 million crafts to be able to keep my children occupied. I've been loving all of that too.
It is so funny to think about all the people that we sit down, we're like, okay, this is going to give me all this time to do these projects. And I love the joke the comedian was like, I feel sorry for those husbands that have had, I'll get it when I have some time.
The honey-do list.
And the honey-do list is like, all right, let's get those those
Nothing
gutters
but time
cleaned.
right now.
Let's trim those. Let's change those batteries and the smoke detectors.
I love it. And Dean, as you were talking about that show that you were watching about Ireland, and you were describing that lifestyle of the northern people in Ireland, or some maybe of that. I don't know how to say it politically correct Native American lifestyle.
Well, I think that's the way we say it nowadays.
Right? I'm like, it sounds so romantic to me. I'm like, yes, please. Can we, how do we get more of that? Like, it's idealistic, it's romantic. There's like a beauty to it that is very, very attractive to me. And I don't think that I'm the only one on the planet that finds that idea of really flowing with the seasons of our planet and the times, and being able to really work those kinds of things into your life. But yet I am so completely addicted to productivity that it's an oxymoron.
And I love that, because I want to pose this question then, because you described that dream, right?
Yes. Oh,
so
yes.
My question to everybody listening is, well, what dream are you going to believe in? That's all we're doing, is we're choosing which dream to believe in. And right now what's going on in society is it's kind of like the majority rules as what the truth is. Mm. And that really concerns me because, and I think we may have talked about this before, is I get the biggest kick out of the fact that we take most of our advice from actors and actresses nowadays. And these are people that get paid to pretend they're us. Mm-hmm. So you've got a person that gets paid to pretend to be you, and then you're watching them and taking their advice about life.
Right. And it's one thing to hear their opinion, right? And quite another to be like, oh, yep, that's
so-and-so said it.
The way that it is.
So-and-so said it. And it drives me crazy. And so we are so driven by this media-driven, plugged-in society that we're totally in another dream. And the dream that we're in is you have to be going, doing. Look at all these people going on vacation. Look at all these people doing fun things with their family. Look at all these different crafts, and they're making bread, and they're making their own ornaments for their Christmas trees. And they're traveling to Europe, and they're going on cruises. And we're thinking to ourselves, I've got to do all these things. And it's really about simplicity. And I want to take us back even another little bit here. I remember when I was a kid growing up, so I'm going to date myself here, so I will be 55 this June.
Yeah, just around the corner.
It's just around the corner, and which is always hilarious. Everybody can relate to me. I don't feel 55. Inside it, there's like a 25-year-old going, holy cow, who are you? Mm-hmm. But the reality is that when I was growing up, we didn't have all of these soccer camps. Mm-hmm. We didn't have all of these things going on, and there were camps. There, you could go to football camp. You could go. They were just kind of starting out. The generation before me didn't have any of those things, so there was no quote soccer mom back then,
right?
And now we've got this. It's even a term. Right. Soccer mom drives the soccer van or the soccer SUV. And what has happened is we've created this expectation of who moms are supposed to be now.
Right.
So now you get this woman who is going to work full time, coming home, trying to get her kids fed, baking bread, making ornaments, getting kids to soccer practice, getting kids to violin practice, making sure they're practicing their piano every day, and going on and on and on and on, all because this is the dream that we've been handed into this generation. So my generation, we didn't have that. We did have moms that were, at home taking care of things. We did have moms that were working. They were kind of starting to get into the workforce. But nowadays, I don't know how women do it. Ladies, you guys I think you're amazing. But again, what dream do we believe in?
Right.
We think we should have. And I can't tell you how many times I have moms come in here and they sit down and they're telling me, I'm not a good mom. Why are you not a good mom? Well, because I don't bake bread for my kids, fresh home bread. I'm not eating organic. I
let them play on their tablets.
I let them play on their tablets. I let them eat Cheerios off the floor. I don't get them to soccer practice. I don't make them practice their piano. Like, they go down this list of all these things that are so not simple.
Right. And
the reality, moms, here's the reality. From a 30-year profession, I've been at 30 years. None of those things will make your child healthier. What will make your child healthier is your time and your attention. Whether you take them to violin practice, whether they become some savant on the piano, does not change anything. What changes the game is if you sit down, give them your undivided attention and your undivided time and love.
Absolutely.
That's it. The end. It's that simple.
Right. And so, Dean, I think that was a perfect step into one of the things that we have come up with as to how to really combat this in your life and to be able to look at what you're doing and to simplify, which is to figure out what purpose does it serve, right? Like, what is this activity or this thing that I'm doing? What is the real value? What am I getting out of it? What purpose does it serve? Because if you, taking your analogy still, like if you take a look at that laundry list of things that quote moms are supposed to be doing these days, right? Well, what purpose does baking bread serve, right? If it serves a purpose for you and you find joy in it and it creates value and it increases your life, then maybe that's something that you don't want to eliminate. Maybe that won't be what you're eliminating when you're trying to simplify. But if it's just like, yep, I'm just doing it so that Susie down the corner can see that I'm still like kicking ass as a mom, then maybe we're simplifying that out.
Or, yeah, and don't stop. I want you to keep going, but or because it's the quote right thing to do.
Right.
I should
it's what
be
I'm supposed to be
doing.
doing.
I should be doing it.
Right. And I think that's a huge piece of it too, because can a person do all of those things within a day or a week? Sure, it's humanly possible, right? We are powerful beings, but at what cost? Right? Like at what cost? Is it your sanity? Is it your self-worth? Is it the time, like you were just saying, like the actual relationship with your children or your partner or your friends, like at what cost? And so once again, taking a look at what value do I get from this? What purpose does it serve? Does it have a purpose? Is this even something that I want, or have I adopted it from generations before me, or the social media platform, or me looking around being like, oh gosh, so-and-so is doing that, right? Is it really something that you want? And I think that piece is so powerful, Dean, when I'm working with people is most of us don't even really know what we want. We've just bought into this idea of what it is that we're supposed to have and we're supposed to do and we're supposed to look like. We don't even want it, right? Like I was just saying, like, man, I would love to live in Northern Ireland and go north in the summer and go south in the winter and gather around sign me up. I'll go back to 2,000 years, whatever it takes to go back. I'm going. Like, that sounds really great to me. But here we are in this society today, and all of the things that I've bought into that I don't even necessarily really want, but I do it because I think it's what I'm supposed to be doing to be of value today.
Yeah. And I think, we get into this one-upmanship, so to speak, on so many different levels. And I think one of the levels that we get into this one-upmanship is, I know for me as a father, I want to be a better man. And I want to be a better father than my father was. And he was a good father. And I want my sons to be better fathers than I was, and my daughters to be better mothers than their mother. And the reality is that, what example am I setting? If I'm setting the bar and I'm saying, okay, I'm this soccer mom that's out there plowing through life effortlessly. Right. I got it.
That was good.
Yeah, I had to slow down. But if I'm plowing through life, I'm getting them to soccer camp, I'm getting the piano lessons, I'm creating crafts, I'm making dinner, I'm meal prepping, I'm, everything's organic, I'm juicing, I'm just doing everything. Okay,
and now I'm crushing my CrossFit wad. All of it.
All of it. Okay, tag, daughter, your turn. Now this poor young daughter is going to be sitting there going, okay, well, I'm supposed to be this type of woman because this is the type of woman my mother was, so I've got to do everything my mother did and more. Mm-hmm. And so they get to a point where they're either like, I'm out. There's no way.
Yeah.
And or they get to a point where they're depressed because they can't be. And I see it in men too. With men trying to be, hey, my dad provided me this home and these cars, and we went on these vacations and we did all these things as fathers and men, and I took them out shooting and hunting and taught them how to skin a deer, and I just blah, 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 and I've got to be better. And I think that's a big part of it too, is are these things bringing value to my world, and are they things that are of value to me? I grew up hunting. My father taught us how to hunt, taught us how to fish and do all of those things. But in my life right now, I'm not hunting. And I did when I was younger. I had a lot of time to go hunting. But as I became a father and a businessman and doing the things that I do now, I don't have time to go hunting. Do I know how? Yes. Does it bring value to my life? No, it doesn't.
Right.
And I get it. Like if it was 300 years ago, I better know how to hunt. I better know how to fish and do those things. But these things don't bring joy, bring value into my life.
Right.
They are things I love doing. I love hunting. I love fishing. But they're not bringing value. And so we have to take, what is the value of the time? Is the things I'm doing equal to the time value?
Right. Because, as much as I like to tout the flag that time isn't real, it's actually one of our most valuable resources.
Yes.
Right? Even though, sure, it's a construct that we have created because everything is limitless and endless and all of those things, right? Those beautiful ideas that I believe are true. But still, we function on a clock, right? The sun comes up, the sun sets, all those things. So really, where you're choosing to spend your time is the very first way that you're going to look in order to be able to simplify, to see what things you can streamline out and which pieces are super important and the most valuable for you to keep a part of your life and your lifestyle. And really, that's a huge piece of what we're talking about, Dean, is really, instead of doing the hamster wheel rat race chase, really creating the lifestyle, the life that you want.
Absolutely. Yeah. And really, is it bringing value? Yeah, the wind is blowing right now.
So I
don't know if you guys are
like a sad cat to me. Like,
no, it's the wind is kind of picking up. So hopefully you're not picking it up in the podcast. But it is valuing that time and creating the value. Does this bring value into my world? Does this bring value into my life? Now notice, I'm not using the term, does it bring joy? I do love that, and I love that people in our industry have used the term, does this bring joy into my life? Well, not everything that brings value into your life brings joy.
Right. I was just thinking about Marie Kondo and holding the object and being like, does this object bring me joy, right? And if it doesn't, then you discard. Like
Marie Kondo is, for some of us that don't know.
It's like a way to be able to dejunk your life and get your physical items down to just those things that really matter to you and bring joy to you.
I'd be like, does this laundry detergent bring me joy? No. I got to do laundry, throw it away.
And then there's like this whole organizational concept behind it. And then this is how you stack it. And this is how you put, but really the basis of it is you were supposed to hold every single thing that you own and hold it to your chest and think, does this bring me joy? And if it doesn't, then get rid of it.
A great way to simplify. And I think in a lot of ways we need to do that too. And maybe instead of using, does this bring me joy, Also, does it bring value,
Right.
which can bring in joy as well. And I think we need to do that with our time. We need to be sitting back and we need to be looking at, okay, I'm doing these things every day. Does this bring me value? Does this bring value into my life, even though they're hard? So eating healthy and working on eating a healthy diet and meal prepping, does this bring value into my life? Yes.
Right.
Does it bring joy? No. Meal prepping, I think that's the one thing people complain about the most in getting healthy is,
Right.
God, all the meal prep. And it's like, yeah, there's a lot there. So does it bring value? Does it bring me value? And that's, one of the first things that we really want to challenge you to be doing is, does this bring me value?
Absolutely. And I think when we couple that with the purpose, right? Like, what purpose does it serve and why do I do it? What is the purpose behind my behavior? Why does this increase? Why does this bring value into my life? That's a really valuable piece to see. Am I doing this because my mother, my father, CNN, whoever it is, right? Like, looking at that and being able to see, okay, if this is something that I should be doing or supposed to be doing versus something that I value, that it does these things for me, it increases my life. And I like that you kind of eliminated that. Like, does it bring me joy? But does it bring me forward in my life? Is it taking me closer to the life that I really want?
Yeah. And what is that life?
Yeah.
And, I love, you were talking about, I want to be able to go back and go back to that day.
Really,
when,
I just have a super strong hippie lifestyle that hippie living inside of me that just wants to do that.
Just wants to.
Bad.
I love being a hippie. I think it's the greatest thing in the world. I'm probably the most conservative looking hippie out there. Most people wouldn't even consider me a hippie because I'm not doing all the Woodstock stuff.
Right.
But the point being is that what is the lifestyle I do want to create for myself, and I think getting really clear on the lifestyle that I want to create is important. And I like that you threw in there, am I creating this lifestyle because I should? And this is the way it should look because this is the way that it shows up in the world, and this is the way I was told. Or am I intuitively following the life that I should be following for me? Now, this leads me to another quick a side note is parents that are listening. Those of you that are parents, your children are on a different path, and don't kid yourselves and try and think that we're on the same path. You're not. Your children's lives are their own lives. And you get to a point in your children, and I'm speaking as a father myself, is you get to a point in your life where your children will choose their path. And sometimes that path is very painful for us as parents. It's very painful for us to watch. Sometimes it's joyous. Sometimes it's both. But the reality is we have to step back from creating this belief that our children's choices of their life path is somehow indicative of the type of person
Absolutely.
I am. And my goal in life is to raise healthy human beings that are great citizens and participate in life and contribute. Now, what they choose to believe in, who they choose to believe in, the direction they choose to go, the careers they want to choose and have in their lives, that's on them. That's on them. And I think the more that we try to control that, the more complicated our lives become.
Yes.
Because now what we're doing is we're trying to determine, well, this is the life I want for me, and I want my children in my life, so they have to have the same lifestyle.
Right.
And that's the problem is as soon as a parent, where I see parents struggle, and for years, like I said, for years I've been watching this, where I watch parents struggle the most is when their children don't follow their lifestyle path. And then they take it as some form of rejection. And then they try to control their child into following their life path. It's like, well, you're not doing this and you're not doing that. I'm going to force you to do this. I'm going to force you to do that. And instead of saying, hey, I would like to influence you into following the path I'm on. Now, if you go a different path, that's on you.
Right.
But I would like to show you, here's how it's benefiting me. Here's how it's benefiting my life. Here's how it's showing up in my world. And if that's a value to you, I want you to adopt that. but I also want you to go out and create your own life, because parents, you don't have enough time to run everybody's life.
Absolutely.
Talk about simplifying.
Oh, yeah. Just be in control of your one life.
And that goes back to the other pieces, is really, what is the value of that relationship? And am I getting my value from that relationship? If I'm getting my value from my children's behavior and the life path that they've chosen, I'm in trouble. Does that make sense?
100%. Yes. And Dean, I love how you brought up the fact that the purpose, once again, right? Like, am I doing that to prove that I'm a good mom, that I'm a good dad, that they turned out good, so that gives me value? Because obviously I'm kind of knocking it out of the park as a parent if my kid turns out to be exactly the way that I want them to,
right,
or the way that they should look, right?
Exactly.
When in reality is, how much more empowering is that, and how powerful as a parent to just surrender that and then work on the relationship, right? Like, valuing the relationship and giving purpose to relationships, which is another thing that you can look at to see where maybe you need to simplify, right? And I think sometimes we adopt way too many relationships in our life that we can't even keep up with.
Yes, there
right?
you go. There you go.
To be able to have this giant social life, as well as all of, keep up with your coworkers or your siblings and your parents and your children, and like all of these relationships, which, I mean, it's my biggest joy in life is to have connection. Right. And I think that is a huge piece in our human experience, is to get connection to other humans. And so it's very important. It's not something that we should just say, okay, to simplify my life, I'm cutting out all human interaction, because that's not going to be healthy. That's not going to work at all. But there's definitely, I think, sometimes where we can fall into this trap of, I don't have purpose if I don't have a million people that I, quote, matter to. Right?
Yeah.
And so taking a look at your relationships, and that doesn't necessarily mean cutting everybody out of your life. It just means putting people in the appropriate spot, right? You don't have to expend as much time and effort and energy in every single relationship you have. There are some that can be put on the back burner. There are some that need to be put in a shoebox and put in the back closet, and then get it out later, Marie Kondo style, and say, does this bring me joy?
Does this bring me joy? Is this relationship bringing value to me?
Right.
And that's another big piece. And so what I would challenge people, as we're getting kind of close to the end here, is what I would really challenge people with is to create your top 5. And this is a challenge I like to give people a lot, is to create your top 5 people. And if you're a parent, if you're a dad listening to this, I'm not talking about your children. Your children are in a totally different category, but your top 5 people, if you have a spouse, then it includes your spouse or your partner. Mm-hmm. But it's a matter of, who are your top 5? And and again, does that make sense? Not talking about dependents. I'm not talking about your children, because they're obviously going to be in your top.
We're giving you permission to look at your social circle,
your
right?
social circle,
not necessarily your familial circle,
right? Which yes. And so I know that's confusing, because sometimes your familial circle is your social circle,
right.
But
and it also doesn't make you a bad person or wrong if your kids aren't included in your top 5, right? Like, so please don't include them.
Just aside, set your kids aside for a minute is the point. But look at your top 5 people. And do those 5 people bring value in your life? And not as in a way, okay, well, you don't, I'm going to discard you, but in a reality check for, okay, who am I interacting with? And are these people bringing value into my world? Are they bringing value into my life?
Mm-hmm. And by that, I think, Dean, I'm just trying to understand a little bit, help me understand, like, value as in like an even give and take in the relationship, right? Like, because you could have someone in your life who's just a taker all of the time. And, and then we can start looking at what value you get from yourself for having, that person in your life that just needs you all the time but doesn't really give back very much. And I think that there's like ebb and take in all relationships, right? Sometimes I need a little bit more because I'm not as healthy mentally, emotionally, physically, or whatever's going on, but then you bounce back, right? There's kind of that give and take that happens. But I think, am I right in understanding
dead on
as to what value that they have in your life?
And what I want to do is kind of like dog ear this. And in our next episode, what I propose, if you're okay with it, is I want to spend some time talking about who we attract into our lives and why we attract those people into our lives, and how to differentiate, and then how to create what we want as far as attracting the people we want in our lives, and putting boundaries in those relationships as well. And I'd love to start our next podcast off with that topic. What do you think?
You have my permission. I think that would be great.
I appreciate your permission. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you for following us. Hope that you like and share these videos, and go to...
Can you tell he's on
Facebook
on autopilot
mode
right now? The podcast.
You do the wrap-up.
Okay, I will. And let us know what you think about the topic, what different things that you think about simplicity and how to simplify your life. We'd love to get some of your ideas as well, because heaven knows Dean and I can always be learners as well.
100%.
So we'd love to get your opinions and what has worked for you. And I'm pretty excited to talk to you about relationships next time.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Okay, have a great one.